Good morning, 8th grade. Mr. Hale here. It is Tuesday, April 21st, and today we are going to go over the volume formula for the last shape in our three-dimensional shapes unit, the sphere. Uh, I hope that you were able to use Friday and Monday to get caught up on any back work that you may have missed. I know a lot of people were having some technical issues. Once we're done with spheres, we'll talk about surface area of spheres tomorrow, Wednesday. We'll do a whole unit review on Thursday and Friday, and then starting next week, because we're heading into what would be final exam season, we're going to go back to the beginning of 8th grade and do some review work and work through the entirety of the year just so that material is stuck in your brain before you head off to high school. It's my understanding at this time that the final exam process is going to be very, very different than it normally would be. So don't get too stressed out about it. We're definitely not going to expect you to do a traditional final exam. But I do want to review the year as if we were, so that, like I said, the stuff that we've learned is in your mind somewhere before you head off to high school in the fall. Okay, with all that said, let's talk about volume of spheres. The volume of spheres is one of the easier formulas in this unit to learn. Because you only need to know one thing about the sphere in order to make the formula work. So in all of our previous setups, or all of our previous shapes, you need to know 2, 3, sometimes 4 different measurements in order to find the volume or the surface area. Sometimes those measurements weren't obvious, like the slant on a pyramid or a cone. But with a sphere, because a sphere is mathematically pretty much just a three-dimensional circle, the only measurement you need to know is the radius, because the radius is what defines the existence of the sphere. The radius of a sphere is the distance from the exact center to the edge in every possible direction, up and down, left and right, front and back. So if you know the radius of a sphere, you can calculate everything else about it. Today, so we're talking about volume. Our volume, V, is going to be equal to 4/3 times pi times radius cubed. And a way to remember this for volume is that the volume of any shape is always cubed. But if we're finding the volume of a sphere, you're going to put cubed as an exponent to your radius. That's a pretty straightforward formula. Pi r cubed times 4/3. The only difficulty I know some of you may have is how to properly enter 4/3 into a calculator. So let's pull up a calculator and do exactly that with problem number 1 here. So we have our formula. Let's substitute what we need to know. We're going to do 4/3 times pi times, our radius is 3 because the radius goes from the center to the edge, times 3 cubed. Pull the calculator back up. So what I would recommend that you do, whether you have a physical calculator like the ones we have at school, or whether you're using your built-in calculator on your school laptop, the easiest way to enter a fraction is to put parentheses, 4 divide 3, close parentheses. That's going to give you the exact same result as if you were able to directly enter a fraction. If, in the future, going forward, you want to just type in 1.33333, make sure that you at least go to 3 decimal points. Don't just put in 1.3 or 1.33. Make sure you put in at least 1.333 if you're going to choose to use the decimal. Otherwise, use the division version of a fraction, parentheses 4 divided by 3. You'll get roughly the same result. Okay, so we've got 4/3. Let's multiply that by pi. I'm going to use the pi button. You can also use 3.14 equals, okay, multiply that by our radius, 3, raised to the third power. That's 27. You'll notice that you can write this as cube parentheses 3. Some online calculators will ask you to do it that way. If you don't have a built-in x to the third button, look for something that looks like this, x to the y, where you'll be able to enter your base and your exponent. Also, some calculators will ask you to use the hat button that kind of looks like this and is the shift function on the number 6 on a normal keyboard. That little up arrow thing that's above the 6 will also get you an exponent on most online calculators. Okay, so we have 4/3 times pi times 3 cubed. Our answer is 113.09. We're going to round that off to 113.1. And since this is measured in feet, we put FT. And since this is volume, it's always to the third power. So the approximate volume of number 1 is 113.1 cubic feet. Please note that since, depending on the calculator you're using, you might have slightly different calculations of 4/3. If you're using the pi button versus the 3.14, versus or if you manually put in 3.14159, variations in how you enter pi into the calculator, the volume that you get might be slightly different than the volume I get because of those variations in calculator entry. So as long as you are around 113, you're good to go. Okay, let's do a second example. Let's go over to number 2 here. Notice on number 2, our example line goes all the way across the sphere. That is not our radius. If you go all the way across, that is your diameter. And the radius is always half of the diameter. So if the diameter is 12, then the radius is half that. Our radius for number 2 is going to be 6. All right, so once we know that, we can enter in our formula. We're going to do 4/3. We're going to multiply that by some version of pi. And we're going to multiply that by, our radius is 6, so 6 cubed. Pull our calculator up again. All right, so clear everything. Let's start off by doing, I'm going to do parentheses, 4 divide 3, close parentheses. Again, if you want to do it as the decimal, please make sure you go to at least 3 decimal places. You'll get roughly the same answer either way. We're going to multiply that by pi. I'm going to use the pi button. You can manually enter 3.14 instead, or you can manually enter 3.141 or 159 or 1592. However you want to do it, the various different ways that you can enter pi into a calculator are always going to give you slightly different answers, but as long as they're all close to the same, they're going to work. Normally, this time of year is also when I would ask the 8th graders to try to memorize pi to the longest number of digits. And I'm kind of frustrated that we didn't get to do that this year, because that's something I always look forward to. Okay, so 4/3 multiplied by pi, as before, gives us 4.11188. And then we multiply it by our radius, 6. I'm going to use this button this time, just in case you don't have a to the third power button on your calculator. So 6 is my x, my base, and then 3 is my y. Notice up here it has the 6, and then has that little hat thing I was mentioning. That is the shift function of a 6 on the keyboard. So 6 to the power of 3 is what goes into your calculator. And we get our answer. It's 904.778. We're going to round this off to approximately 905 centimeters cubed. All right, let's do one more. Let's go down here to number 4. We have our radius given to us. That's 7. So plug that into the calculator. 4/3 thirds multiplied by pi multiplied by, we know our radius, it's 7 to the third power. Bring our calculator back up. Okay, clear everything. I'm going to do things slightly different this time. Instead of doing parentheses 4 divide 3, like I've done the previous two examples, I'm going to jump straight to the decimal. I know that's 1.333. I'm going to multiply by pi, but instead of hitting the pi button that I have, I'm going to manually enter 3.14. And then I'm going to multiply by my radius to the third power, 7 to the third power. That gives us 1,435.6. Now, I'm going to do the exact same thing, but using the different entry methods. I'm going to do 4 divide 3 multiplied by the pi button multiplied by 7 to the third power. Notice, using that entry method, I got 1,436. Using the previous entry method with the decimal and the shortened pi, I got 1,435. So the answers are slightly different, but they're close. And what's important here is as long as you are around that correct range, you're good to go. I, on my key, will always have an approximately 1,436. And as long as you're within a couple numbers of 1,436, you're going to be good to go. So on my key, it literally says approximately, that's what that wavy line means, 1,436 centimeters cubed. And as long as you have between 134 and 138, 1,434 and 1,438, you're fine. Okay, simple formula. 4 thirds pi r cubed. Remember, there's various different ways you can enter 4 thirds and pi. Remember to make sure you use to the third power. Don't square it. Cube it. There'll be 6 questions similar to this for today, and then tomorrow we'll use the same worksheet, but we'll work on surface area. I'll post a video about surface area tomorrow morning. If you have any questions, I'll be doing office hours between 1 and 2:30. As always, do your best, wash your hands, stay home, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.